شكرا يا ربي شكرا هديت قلبي شكرا.
My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, we have been given a great treasure. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us from the ummah of the greatest of creation, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we have been given an even greater treasure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the most exalted character, Akhlaq al-Muhammadiyya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises this quality, his qualities sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and praises his blessed character in the Quran and Surah Al-Qalam, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَىٰ خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. That you, and indeed you, my beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, لَعَلَىٰ خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, you are on the most exalted of character sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That you are on the most exalted and most noble character sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestow this character upon him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? So that the light of his character sallallahu alayhi wa sallam can leave imprints on his ummah and those that follow him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Such imprints that they become reflections of his beauty sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is why the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, بُعِثْتُ, that I have been sent لِيُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I have been sent to perfect the character, to perfect the noble character of the people. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, this is the ultimate goal. This is the ultimate goal of any ibadah, of any worship that we do. Of course, the first and foremost goal is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do it in the love of Allah and His beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But what we receive as a result of our ibadah, of our adhkar, of our fara'id and sunan and nawafil, the purpose is to purify the character. Because the insan is in its lowly state, the nafs al-ammara bis-su', the lower self of the human being is always going to bring the person down to evil qualities. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed us prayer, fasting, so on and forth, so forth. All these actions and all these ibadat to train the nafs so that it becomes purified. When the nafs and the soul becomes purified, it raises in levels. It goes through stages. Right? Nafsul Amara, then it goes to Nafsul Mulhama and Nafsul Mutma'inna. It has different stages. As the awliya Allah, they explain in their kutub. The likes of Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani, the likes of Shaykh Junaid al-Baghdadi, the likes of Imam al-Ghazali, and those who follow them and those who are before them. Radiallahu anhum ajma'in. So what happens when your nafs becomes purified, your capacity to behold the character traits, beautiful qualities, it becomes more vast. Right? You're able to inherit those qualities, which are reflections of the qualities of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what happens is you start to reflect the jamal of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You start to reflect the beauty of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even though no one can compare to him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but you start to follow in his footsteps. And when you follow in his footsteps, then you become beacons of light. Each person, each Muslim becomes a beacon of light in him or herself. Such a light that you can now guide others to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And subhanallah, when you're at such a stage, my dear brothers in Islam, when you're at such a stage where you're reflecting the beauty of Rasulullah, and you're reflecting the light of Rasulullah through your character, then you don't need to talk much. You don't need to talk about your actions. You know, there is a saying in English, actions speak louder than words. This is haqiqah. There is reality in this saying. And we also, as Muslims, believe in this, that actions speak louder than words. If you look in the history of Islam, how was Islam spread? Not much talking. It was more through the akhlaq of the Quran. It was the akhlaq of Rasulullah that was reflected upon the Muslims. And when people saw that, then they had no other choice than to submit to the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They said, who is this? And what is this? And who are these people? And what kind of people are these? That they prefer other people over themselves. That they are starving, but they would feed people. That they would go hungry, but they would make sure that their neighbors are fed. Allahu Akbar. That they would sleep without blankets, but they would make sure that their neighbors and the people of the communities had blankets to sleep with. Subhanallah. They would go into deficit in their businesses, but they would make sure that they would not rip anybody off. This was the akhlaq. And this is what transformed the people's hearts. And indeed, this is a reflection of the Jamal and Akhlaq al-Muhammadiyya that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. And that indeed you are on the most exalted of character. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, if we want to be a wholesome community, if we want success, then we have to work on our akhlaq. I'm not excluding myself from this. I'm including myself first and foremost than anyone else. We have to work on our akhlaq. And the akhlaq has to do with the heart, the character traits of the heart. For example, one thing we can take, just one thing. Every Jum'ah we can explain one thing, and the whole year will pass and we won't even encompass all of the traits. But if we just take one thing at a time, we can see how beautiful these character traits are of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For example, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us to have a good opinion of one another. Husnul dhan. Husnul dhan is something that we should always have. Husnul dhan, good opinion. Having a good opinion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost. What does that mean, having a good opinion of Allah? Having a good opinion of Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants best for you. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a creator that is forgiving and merciful. This is having husnul dhan. What else does it mean to have husnul dhan with Allah, having a good opinion? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept your dua. Inshallah, even if He's not accepting right away, you have the belief that inshallah He will accept it one day for you. And if there's a delay, then this is from the wisdom of Allah, the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is having husnul dhan. This is why the ulama, they say when you make dua, don't think that, oh, Allah might not accept my dua. No, this is not a good akhlaq, this is not good, this is not a good quality to have when you're making dua. But when you have husnul dhan, that yes, Allah, you have the yaqeen, Allah is mustajib al-da'awat, He is the one, mujib al-da'awat, He is the one who accepts the da'awat. And He says in the Quran, "Ud'uni astajib lakum," that call upon me and I will accept your dua, I will answer your prayer. When you have that yaqeen, this is how we should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Regardless of how poor we are in our states, regardless of how sinning we are, but when we make dua with the yaqeen and the husnul dhan that Allah will accept our prayer. Ameen ya Rabb. We have husnul dhan with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We have husnul dhan that He is the best of creation, that He is the most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He was sent as a mercy, that He did not commit any sins sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that He was pure sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and He was pure and He purified others sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that there is no one more noble than Him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that we aspire to be with Him in paradise ya Rabbal Alameen. We have these good opinions of Rasulullah, that there is no aib, there is no shortcoming in Rasulullah, that He is pure from that. As the Quran is la rayba fi, that we have husnul dhan with the Quran, that the Quran is the word of Allah, there is no doubt in it, then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is la aiba fi, that he has no shortcoming, he has no aib sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is pure, he is Sayyidul Ma'asumeen. All the prophets of Allah are ma'asum, they are free from sin, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is their leader sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have husnul dhan with one another, my dear brothers and sisters. This is the most important. Right? It is said that you should make 70 excuses for your brother or sister in Islam. Right? We have a justice system in this country, and the justice system we respect it because we are citizens of this country. And the justice system here is based on the principle that you are guilty until proven innocent. Is it not?
Yeah.
Or correct me if I'm wrong. Guilty until proven innocent. But as our dealings with one another as Muslims, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His Quran and the blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam through his teachings has taught us that our principle should be innocent until proven guilty. We cannot start judging one another, especially if we don't have evidence. So there's a difference, but we still respect our laws. We're not saying go against the law of the country, no. Following the law of the country is also important. This is also from the teachings of Rasulullah. But when it comes to our mu'ashara and our mu'amalat with one another as Muslims, we should always have husnul dhan. The first thing is always that this person is innocent. Always have a good opinion of our brother and sister in Islam. Always be ready to make excuses for him or her. Not just your own family, but your brothers and sisters in Islam in general. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. That all the brothers, all the mu'minun, the believers are brothers and sisters in faith. Subhanallah. أَلَا يُؤْمِنُ أَحَدُكُمْ حَتَّى يُحِبَّ لِأَخِيهِ مَا يُحِبُّ لِنَفْسِهِ. The Prophet ﷺ said, you cannot truly believe until you desire for your brother, not just your blood brother, but your brother in faith, your brother in Islam, or your sister, what you desire for yourself. If you desire something for yourself, we want to be thought of as a good person, to have people having good opinion of us, then we should also have good opinion of others. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ أَوْحَى إِلَيَّ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, indeed Allah has revealed to me, أَن تَوَاضَعُوا, that you should be humble. You should have tawadu, this quality of tawadu, humility with one another. You should be cordial with one another. حَتَّى لَا يَفْخَرَ أَحَدٌ عَلَى أَحَدٍ, until no one thinks that I'm superior to another person. You don't have fakhr over one another, that, oh, I am better than you, I am better than him. That's the quality of shaitan. أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْ, this is what he said. I am better than Adam. You created me from fire, you created him from clay, he said. So, لَا يَفْخَرَ أَحَدٌ عَلَى أَحَدٍ, that we do not have, that a person should not think that we're better than another person. وَلَا يَبْغِيَ أَحَدٌ عَلَى أَحَدٍ, and a person should not harm, a Muslim should not harm another Muslim, should not rebel against another Muslim. This is what the Prophet ﷺ has taught us. And my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, we should never judge a person. No matter how bad a person might seem to be, we should make dua for that person. We should not judge or we should not backbite about that person. Right? The 10 minutes you're going to spend, 15 minutes, sometimes half an hour we spend talking, backbiting about a person while drinking coffee or drinking tea with our friends. Say, this person is that, this person is that. Sometimes we spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, we're just backbiting. If you spend that time making dua for that person, imagine. Allahu Akbar. If you spend that 10 minutes making dua in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah guide that person, remove the strait from that person, remove that sin. Because we hate the sin, we don't hate the sinner. We hate the bad qualities, we don't hate the person because he's makhluk of Allah. And especially if he's mu'min and he's a person who is a faithful person, who believes in Allah, believes in the Prophet ﷺ, how can you hate that person? Yes, we hate those qualities that disconnect a person from Allah and His Messenger, but we cannot hate the person. So imagine if we just made dua for that 10 minutes, or 15 minutes, or 20 minutes, or half an hour. Imagine you're making dua and the angels are saying Ameen. Because anytime you make a dua for your brother and sister in Islam, the angels say Ameen. And the angels say the same to you. The angels say the same to you. They make dua for you the same way. So if you say, oh Allah, remove this evil trait from my brother and sister, then they will say, the angels will say, oh Allah, remove any evil trait from that person, from you, for making dua. Allahu Akbar. And the angels are sinless. These pure beings made from light, they will be making dua for you. And how pleased will Allah be that, oh my servant, even though he saw a bad quality in another servant of mine, but he's making dua for that person. How pleased will Allah be? How pleased will the Prophet ﷺ be if he saw you? That this is what he taught the people, akhlaq. Right? Even if a person does bad to us, we do good to them. We do not repel evil with evil. We repel with afu, we repel with pardoning. As the Prophet ﷺ was commanded by Allah, khudil af, that hold on to pardoning. Afu is a great quality. If a person can have this quality, raises your ranks in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, مَا نَخَصَتْ صَدَقَةٌ مِّن مَالٍ, that he started speaking about charity, that if you give charity, it does not decrease your wealth. Giving in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not decrease your wealth. He is Ar-Raziq, He is Ar-Razzaq. He will replenish your wealth. There's no decrease, or there is no shortcoming in the treasures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. He is the creator of everything. To Him belongs everything in the heavens and the earth. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then what did the Prophet ﷺ say right after? وَمَا تَوَاضَى أَحَدٌ لِلَّهِ إِلَّا رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. That if any person shows humility, if any person, وَمَا تَوَاضَى, they show tawada for the sake of Allah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises their rank. Their spiritual rank is raised. The darajat are raised, and on the day of judgment they will be in higher ranks because they had tawada, they had humility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. SubhanAllah, there was a pious scholar in the last few centuries from Damascus, and his name was Shaykh Badruddin al-Hassani. Shaykh Badruddin al-Hassani, he was a Sayyid from the descendants of Rasulullah ﷺ through Imam al-Hassan, the grandson of Rasulullah ﷺ. And he was known for his extreme tawada. He was not only a shaykh and a scholar and a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and an arif billah, he was also a muhaddith, he was a hafiz al-hadith. And you know what, a hafiz al-hadith, to be a hafiz al-hadith, you have to memorize at least 100,000 hadith of Rasulullah. Right? To be a hafiz al-Quran, you memorize the Quran. To be a hafiz al-hadith, at least 100,000 ahadith of Rasulullah. This person, Shaykh Badruddin Hassani, he was such a man where he went into khalwa, he secluded himself for 18 years in his home. He didn't want to do anything with other people. He said, I'm secluding myself for 18 years in my home, and he memorized the hadith of Rasulullah. And he became a hafiz al-hadith. And he's known, especially amongst the people of Sham. If you ask them, they say he's such a bright scholar. Shaykh Badruddin Hassani rahmatullah alayhi. And subhanAllah, you see his tawadu', he was a shaykh. And he would teach durus, he would give lessons in his masjid, in the Jami Masjid in Damascus, the Umayyad Masjid, the Umayyad Mosque, very famous mosque. And this is also the mosque, it's said, where Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam will descend. And he would give lessons in that mosque. And whenever there was a new student in his class, he would tell that new student to lead salah. Allah Akbar, he's the imam, he's the shaykh. The other students will be surprised, they'll be shocked. Why is he telling them to lead salah? And sometimes that new student would not even have a beard on his face. He would be clean shaven. And he would be a new student and he would say, you lead salah. So he would make the new student lead salah. And when the new student will lead salah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless that new student that he would become guided by that. His hidayah will start from there. And then he would grow a beard, he would become, he would follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. His akhlaq would change by the barakah of the shaykh allowing him to lead salah. Another instant, and this story teaches us, this one that I'm going to tell you, not to judge people. Sometimes we see people don't pray salah, we start to judge them. Oh, this guy's going to go to hell, astaghfirullah. How can you say that? Remember, again, we hate the sinner, we do not hate the sinner. It's a very important point. So, Shaykh Badruddin Hassani, he lived on the same street as the Umayyad Masjid in the Umayyad Mosque in Damascus. And his street, his house was located in such a place where when he would walk to the masjid, on the way to the masjid there would be cafes. And for those of us from the Arab world, you know, we have cafes and they have something called the hookah, the shisha people, or the gira, whatever you call it. People smoke, they have coffee, they drink, and they spend their time. This is a social thing that they do. This is part of the culture. Huh? So sometimes when he would walk to the masjid, and his students of knowledge would be walking with him behind him to the masjid, he would look at these people in the shops and he would say salam to each of them. He would give salam to the people smoking the shisha and smoking the hookah, and he would say assalamu alaikum, assalamu alaikum, assalamu alaikum, assalamu alaikum to each and every one of them. Huh? This is a lesson for us. Sometimes we see somebody doing something wrong, we don't even give salam to them. We think we're better than them already. But the shaykh, look at his piety, he would give salam to them. And the students got fed up. The students of the shaykh, they said, Ya shaykh, why are you giving salam to these fusaq? These people are disobeying Allah, they're smoking, the time for salah is there, they're not even going for salah, and you're giving salam to them. You're a shaykh, you're a sayyid, and you're giving salam to these fusaq? The shaykh said, leave them to me, okay? Leave their affair to me. Leave their affair to me. Don't bother me about this. You do what you have to do. Leave their affair. I'm going to give salam to them. And he would keep giving salam. What happened was, in qalab al-hal. That means sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changes the states. Those people in the shops, they ended up in the masajid, and his students ended up in the shops. The students that would say, don't give salam, they ended up in those coffee shops. The hidayah was removed. And those people who were in the coffee shop, because he would give salam to them, they ended up in the masajid. They ended up praying behind the shaykh and attending the durus. Allahu Akbar. This is akhlaq, my dear brothers and sisters. This is the same shaykh who would send his students to the prostitutes in the city of Damascus, in the area, those districts where they have prostitution. He would send on Eid, subhanAllah, he's a shaykh, he's a sayyid, he's pious, he's a wali of Allah. He would send them envelopes of money. He would send his students, go to the prostitutes and give them this envelope and say, this is from Badruddin and he is giving you money for Eid, make dua for him. And the prostitutes were so affected by this that they did tawbah and they became his students. And they left what they were doing. This is akhlaq, my dear brothers. This is just one example. There are millions of examples, we don't have time. Akhlaq al-Muhammadiyya, this is our greatest treasure. If we realize this, then we can rule the world. Not rule the world by so we can rule the world by the akhlaq and the Jamal al-Muhammadiyya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That people will automatically, they will bow. They will bow. They will bow to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they will submit themselves to the akhlaq of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Please say Ameen. That inshallah may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to follow in the footsteps of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That we start to reflect the akhlaq al-Muhammadiyya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Jamal al-Muhammadiyya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, especially in these dark times and in these places where darkness is more perverse and there is more prevalence of darkness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all beacons of light. You know, subhanallah, a light in light doesn't make such an effect, right? If I hold a candle out right now in the light, it's not going to be a big effect. But if it's dark and you hold a candle or a light, look how it spreads the light. So we have to be like that. We can't say, oh, we're in fitna, we have to be the lights. So that in these dark times, in these dark places, our light will have a greater effect, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our attendance here. Blessed day of Jumu'ah, this Eid for the believers and the people of faith. Alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give shifa and afiyah to all those who are sick and those who are ill. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raise the darajat of those who have passed away from the Ummah Muhammadiyya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. For all those who are suffering in any form or way from the Ummah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove their suffering. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove the oppression from the oppressors. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take hold of the oppressors, Ya Rabbil Alameen, and remove any oppression from the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us and encompass us in His mercy. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connect us to Him and His beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And give us a husnul khatamah, a good ending on the kalima la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
شكرا يا ربي شكرا هديت قلبي شكرا نورت دربي شكرا شكرا يا رب